Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're playing a game that was loosely based on Thrillkiller, written by Howard Chaykin with art by Dan Brereton. But before we get into that, make sure you hit like, subscribe, leave a comment, and ring the bell. We've got a great community here, and it is all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in the early 1960s. It's not the 50s anymore, the decade of Ike, of McCarthyism, of Jack Kerouac, but it's not the 1960s of the sexual revolution, the war in Vietnam, of turning on, tuning in, and dropping out. It was a time of transition. JFK was in the White House. Elvis Presley was discharged from the U.S. Army. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison were still playing with Pete Best in the dark cellar clubs in Berlin and Hamburg. And bohemians were still considered perverts, criminals, and subversives. A trio of corrupt Gotham City police officers goes to a gay bar where they demand one of the bar's owners pay them off or face the consequences of refusing them. The man they are speaking to claims to just be a bartender and tells them to take it up with his partner, but they tell him he's been arrested on 9 counts of tax evasion and is on his way to prison. As the crooked cops prepare to get violent, Kathy Kane, aka Batwoman, and her sidekick, Betty Kane, the original Batgirl, show up. Batwoman could have given the showgirls at the Tropicana a run for their money. Back then, a beautiful woman possessing the specialized skills to beat a full grown man senseless was so unheard of, it often took several serious beatings for the lessons to sink in. And they do it. The cops try to shoot Batwoman and Batgirl, but can't roll high enough to hit their high dexterity. Meanwhile, it's exceedingly easy for the girls to roll high enough to hit the cops, so they do. In the end, the corrupt cops are knocked out and handcuffed. A recording of what the cops said is left with the bartender, and Commissioner Tony Gordon is called. Tony is the son of Jim Gordon, and he took over as police commissioner after his father retired. When Gordon receives the call, he's speaking with Mayor Ryan. Also here is a cop named Detective Clancy O'Hara. The mayor wants Gordon to clean up Gotham City, but Gordon says he can't do that when the cops themselves are the problem. The mayor tells Gordon to make it happen. And with that, Gordon and Detective O'Hara head down to the bar where the crooked cops are still knocked out. When they get here, they're approached by a pale woman named Bianca Steeplechase, who is the second person to go by the moniker of the Joker. She's dyed her hair green, she has green eyes, glossy red lipstick, and is wearing a purple pantsuit over top of an orange dress shirt that's unbuttoned quite a bit to show off her assets. She gives Detective O'Hara a bunch of cash and tells him she is Don Julio's representative in this establishment and that the Don sends his thanks. O'Hara burns the cash over a candle and says, "You can tell the Don he's more than welcome, but his heartfelt gratitude is thanks enough." And with that, Gordon and O'Hara take the cops in while the new female Joker lights up a cigarette and watches them leave. As they return to headquarters, O'Hara sees another crooked cop in an alley, so he asks Gordon to drop him off. O'Hara walks into the alley and finds a cop telling a young girl named Holly Robinson that she'd better show him a good time or he'll run her in for soliciting. So Holly reluctantly gets down on her knees, but is soon saved as O'Hara punches the other cop in the mouth. O'Hara asks Robinson if she wants to press charges, and she says no, they were just talking. So O'Hara tells her to run along, and he tells the other cop that he makes him sick. Which brings us to the main body of today's game. In return for coming to her aid, Holly Robinson becomes an informant to Detective O'Hara. One night, he pays a visit to a gentleman's club called the Scratching Post, where all the girls dress in little black bikinis and wear fake black cat ears and tails. As they talk, two other women are dancing in the background. One is an African American woman named Patience Phillips, while the other is a beautiful brunette Russian named Kitanya Irina Tatiana Kerenska Alasov. Patience has a hard time finding work thanks to the racism of the era, while nobody wants to hire Miss Kitka because she's Russian. She defected to the United States for obvious reasons, but most people hear her accent and think of her as a commie. All three of them will don the Catwoman costume before the decade is done, but that's a story for another day. Point being, Holly Robinson tells O'Hara that the word on the street is that there is some kind of new cigarette making the scene. She refers to them as narcotics, and he corrects her saying narcotics, but she insists that she has heard them referred to as nicotics or nicks. O'Hara's confused. Holly says that whatever is in these nicks, people can't get enough of them, and whoever is putting them on the streets has connections to the mayor's office and city council too. O'Hara thanks her and leaves. As he's walking to his car, a familiar shadow overtakes him. It's the silhouette of the Batman. Detective O'Hara stops and looks up at Batman, who's been standing on the ledge of the building. Bruce Wayne is about 50 years old now, and as Batman, he's been around long enough that O'Hara knows what's what. So without hesitating, the detective tells Batman that he's got a tip. So Batman spreads his cape like bat wings and glides down to O'Hara, who in turn tells the Dark Knight what Holly told him. Batman tells O'Hara he's learned something too. The original Joker has somehow returned after spending 10 years on the planet Oa, and he's in Gotham City now looking for Harley Quinn. O'Hara is so rattled by this, he says, "Saints preserve us." O'Hara leaves immediately to go tell Gordon, and Batman continues to keep an eye on the Scratching Post Gentlemen's Club. When Holly Robinson gets off her shift and begins to walk home, the new female Joker and some of her goons, who are dressed like clowns, attempt a drive-by shooting, since Holly's been squealing on them. But Batman has been watching and holding action, so he glides down, tackles Holly, and subs an Omni gadget for a cape with 10 APs of skin armor. The bullets hit the cape and hurt, but don't actually do any damage. The sound of squealing car tires pierce the cold, quiet night, and Batman asks Holly if she's all right. She says she is and asks how she can repay him. Batman ignores her offer and instead tells her to get out of town, go stay with a relative or something. He pulls a $100 bill out of his utility belt and gives it to her. Then she takes a bus to a relative's house out of state. The following night, the aging Bruce Wayne and the now fully grown Dick Grayson go to the Iceberg Lounge, which is owned by the Penguin, who's a little older than Bruce is. The Iceberg Lounge is Gotham's most exclusive dining experience. And tonight, Mayor Ryan and his cronies are there, as are Kathy Kane and Betty Kane. A man named Giorgio Lumati arrives with a briefcase. Bruce notices the briefcase and nods to the Kane girls, who excuse themselves. Mr. Lumati gives the briefcase to Mayor Ryan, who opens it and takes a quick look at all the cash inside. The mayor thanks Mr. Lumati and jokes that he's always wanted enough money to buy Vermont. Just then, the Kane girls snap a photograph of the moment, and the mayor summons security, a man named Waylon Jones, who was born with a rare form of atavism that imparted him with reptilian traits. Jones is better known by his nickname, Killer Croc. Croc attacks the Kane girls only for Bruce and Dick to attack him. Just then, the female Joker appears trying to slash at Dick Grayson's face with her fingernails, which, according to her, polished with a derivative of the venom used by the original Joker. She rolls to hit, but doesn't roll high enough. Batwoman trades dance partners with Dick, subbing her martial arts for how hard she can hit, and she knocks out this new female Joker. The Joker's henchmen run in wearing their clown costumes, and Killer Croc tries to crush Batman. He doesn't roll high enough, though, and Batman subs an Omni Gadget for the acid power, which he throws on the floor, eating a hole under where Croc is standing. As Croc falls through the floor, the clowns open fire, and one of them actually manages to shoot Bruce, grazing his arm, taking a few hit points in the process. Bruce, Dick, Kathy, and Betty manage to knock out everyone in the room, and Dick tries to joke with Bruce as Betty bandages his arm. Dick says Bruce is getting too old for this, but Bruce doesn't actually take that as a joke. Instead, he takes it to heart, and he isn't sure how he'll keep going. He begins to think about passing the baton to Dick, not because he wants to, but because Dick might actually be right. Meanwhile, Mayor Ryan is forced out of the office with enough indictments hanging over his head that he'll be lucky if he's out of prison in 30 years. As Commissioner Gordon walks down the street, he passes by a department store selling black and white television sets. The news is on, and it says that mayoral frontrunner John Charles Gregory and his new bride, Blanche, were delighted to return to Gotham after their whirlwind courtship in Europe. Gordon stares at the black and white TV, which makes Blanche Gregory's skin look bone white. The TV also makes her lips look black as she gives the crowd a huge smile. Gordon sees that smile and wonders if that is Bianca Steeplechase or if it's a trick of the light. He's not sure. Meanwhile, Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson attend the funeral of Larry Lance, who was killed while on the narcotics case. Larry's widow, Dinah, was the Golden Age Black Canary, which was how Batman and Robin knew the couple. Narcotics, by the way, are also called snowflakes and are illegal and addictive because they cause severe nerve damage and manic behavior with prolonged use. Bruce tells Dick that narcotics got Larry Lance killed, and he's going to nail whoever's pumping them out. Meanwhile, at St. Agnes's School for Girls, a group of adolescents are hanging around outside regardless of the winter chill, and nuns stand outside too, doing their best to keep these girls from finding the wrong ways to stay warm. Just then, Roy Harper, aka Speedy, sidekick to the Green Arrow, rides up on a motorcycle. He offers a cigarette to a blonde girl named Haley Fitzpatrick, but she turns it down, saying she only smokes nicks. She gives him her phone number, though, and tells him to call her sometime. The next day, Alfred Pennyworth pays a visit to the widow, Dinah Drake Lance, and her daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance, who both work at a flower shop. Alfred tries to give them some money that Bruce Wayne sent over, but they decline the offer. The widow says thanks, but no thanks, and says no amount of money will bring back her husband or take away her pain. Time passes, and Bruce Wayne researches a man named Otto Saunders, who's a German war criminal and chemist. Bruce suspects Saunders is the man making the narcotics that are beginning to flood Gotham streets. Speaking of the World War II era, the Penguins Club, the famous Iceberg Lounge, is in many ways a throwback to that bygone era. Inside it, it's as if the interim years were just a fever dream, as the orchestra plays swing music for wealthy sugar daddies and the debutantes and gold diggers who are interested in what those men have to offer. Commissioner Gordon and young Barbara Gordon are here. The commissioner is taking a closer look at Johnny Gregory and his new bride, Blanche. Nobody would recognize Blanche Gregory as Bianca Steeplechase, mistress of Gotham's underworld, but Commissioner Gordon does. As people fill the dance floor, the commissioner and Barbara dance near the new mayor and his wife. and they overhear the mayor drunkenly singing along with the song. His new wife scolds him, and it quickly becomes evident who wears the pants in City Hall. Elsewhere, at the Fitzpatrick residence, Haley answers the phone and it's Roy Harper, aka Speedy. He tells her he got his hands on some of those nicks she was talking about, and he has nobody to smoke them with. She tells Roy to meet her at the pier in an hour, but that if he's joking about the nicks, don't bother showing up. That night, Killer Croc is at the docks, overseeing men who are unloading boxes full of narcotics from a cargo ship. They're interrupted by Batman, who knocks out a couple thugs but gets punched by Killer Croc. Batman subs martial arts for his strength and knocks Croc through a wooden wall, where Croc finds Haley Fitzpatrick and Roy Harper. Croc grabs the Fitzpatrick girl and puts his scaly hand over her mouth, threatening to paint the wall with her brains if Batman doesn't back off. So Batman backs off, only for Croc to turn his gun on Batman and shoot. Batman is not only knocked out, he's actually in the negatives now and is bleeding out. Croc takes Fitzpatrick hostage and drives away. Luckily for Batman, he hears footsteps crunch in the snow. It's Black Canary. She uses her first aid skill to stabilize Bruce's wounds and drive him back to Wayne Manor, where Alfred surgically removes the bullet. Killer Croc returns to Otto Saunders, who is furious that Croc took hostages. Croc says he had no choice. From the next room, the female Joker enters, aka Bianca Steeplechase, aka the mayor's wife. She laughs and says she likes having Roy Harper and Haley Fitzpatrick in their clutches. But Saunders says this will bring them unwanted attention from all of the various crime fighters, which the new Joker says is exactly what they want, a fight on their own turf where they have the advantage. Time passes, and soon Dick Grayson shows up wearing his adult Robin costume. He sneaks in, gesturing at Harper and Fitzpatrick not to talk. But when he turns his back on Haley, she hits him over the head with a crowbar. Dick is knocked out, and for the first time, Roy realizes what the Knicks have done to Haley's mind. Haley attacks Roy with the crowbar too, but he runs from her. Black Canary squares off against Killer Croc, but he knocks her out. Bianca Steeplechase gives Haley a Harley Quinn costume to wear and tells her she did a good job. She then tells the new Harley to hunt down Speedy and beat him to death for her, which makes Harley smile. Roy's in a payphone on the line with the Gotham City Police Department. He's so high, he's hardly making any sense. Just then, Harley takes the crowbar to the phone booth and he screams into the phone that Harley Quinn is trying to kill him. Back where Killer Croc is, the younger Black Canary shows up and finds a big hook at the end of a chain and swings it, hitting Croc and doing some damage, but not enough. Croc climbs up to where the young canary is. She's not used to this sort of thing. And Croc is a serious handful, so she starts to wonder if she'll be joining her father soon. Meanwhile, Roy staggers out into the road and a car screeches to a halt, its bumper mere inches from Roy's face. Roy, who's high as a kite, begs the driver for help, but can't even see who's driving the car due to the headlights. Bianca Steeplechase and Haley Fitzpatrick walk into the headlights and tell Roy it's time to die. But that's when the Riddler gets out of the driver's seat. He points his cane at them, and the end that's shaped like a question mark sprays a green gas their way. As the girls cough, the Riddler says, "And here lies the answer." Bianca Steeplechase and Haley Fitzpatrick cough and wheeze and are shocked because the Riddler is considered by some to be the current king of the Gotham underworld, and plenty of people think he might be the smartest man alive. That's what makes him so dangerous. Haley gasps and says, "The Riddler?" And that's when the passenger door opens and out steps a purple leather shoe. A very familiar voice laughs and says, "If you ladies were surprised to see him, wait till you get a load of me." As they cough, their eyes strain to see through the blinding light of the car's headlights, and in front of them steps the Joker, the real Joker, the most dangerous man to ever walk Gotham streets. The Joker walks over to Haley Fitzpatrick and pulls her up to him, and then hisses, "Why, Harley, I've been looking all over for you. You've been very naughty." He then looks at Bianca Steeplechase and says, "Love what you've done to your hair," referring to the green dye. Then he kicks her in the face with his adrenaline strength. The Joker says that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, then kicks her again as hard as he can in the throat. "But I don't feel flattered," he says, then laughs. Meanwhile, as Killer Croc moves closer to the new Black Canary, Batwoman, Robin, Batman, and Batgirl show up. They all take turns beating him, and eventually Croc is knocked out. They tie him up with steel cable and hurry to where Roy Harper is. He tells them the Joker's got away. And the original Joker seemed to be too angry to care about Roy one way or another. So the Bat family and the Black Canaries take Roy Harper back to the Batcave, where they begin to give Roy the medical treatment he needs. Which brings us to our epilogue. Bruce Wayne wakes up in bed with his wife, Selina. She touches his wounds with her fingertip and asks him to hang up the cape finally. She says to let Dick take over, adding that Bruce is over 50 now. They argue about it some and are interrupted by Alfred, who tells them their guests are gathering on the mansion's rear patio for breakfast. So the Waynes go down where Bruce checks on Dick. Batwoman compares notes with Black Canary. Betty Kane talks with Bruce Wayne Jr. Helena Wayne talks with Dinah Laurel Lance. And Selina Wayne reads the newspaper. She is shocked to see a newspaper article about how Catwoman has supposedly returned to Gotham City. Selina realizes someone new has adopted her old moniker, and she doesn't like it one bit. So Selina considers pulling on the old purple costume herself and looking into this matter. But that would be a story for another day. We enjoyed playing this one. We hope you enjoyed hearing about it. If so, as always, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and be sure to leave us a comment because that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. From all of us here at the longest running superhero RPG on Earth, we hope that all of you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.